Right, you're now listening to episode 103 from the Shed End with myself, Theo. Got a special guest this week. The other Theo is sunning himself down in Turkey somewhere, so got a special guest in. None other than Guni, Man Knows Football. What are you saying?
I'm all good, man. I'm all good. Thank you very much for enjoying me back. I heard your co-host is he's over in Turkey. That's a place that myself and yourself should be going, considering that we've got like 2 hair follicles between us. Do you know what I mean? So, yeah, man. But big up yourself for bringing me on the platform, man.
I've always contemplated. I see a couple of people going there. I see Stormzy say today actually that he's going over there to get his done. He said he's got too much money to be suffering in life, so might have to follow him over there. Sort the line, get a nice line up, fade up, all of that stuff. But yeah, before we get into the episode, make sure you go to the YouTube channel as well. Obviously, the audio version of this podcast is what you're probably listening to, but make sure you head over to YouTube and subscribe the video. The visual version will be over there as well. And also the Linktree link in the description as well. Make sure you head over there to the social accounts, follow all of them, and give us some feedback, man. Give us your thoughts, give us your comments. But we're going to go straight into it. And there's only one place I need to start this week, and that is around Robert Sanchez, the goalkeeper that I see a lot of people saying about Robert Sanchez, who let me just say this bit first, actually. The goalkeeper that was not first choice at Brighton is now first choice at Chelsea. It's a bit of a problem, Guni. I think it's a bit of a problem in terms of he puts in some really good performances, but then it's the mistakes. The mistakes are what is going to kill him, and I think eventually get him out of the team. What's your thoughts on Sanchez? And then also, what's your thoughts on the news that we're hearing that we're looking at trying to get Aaron Ramsdale from Arsenal? Do you think there's any truth to that story? I got to ask the question.
All right. I know. Well, in terms of, I'll start with Robert Sanchez first. I was never a fan of his signing. I just saw it as more, well, 2 things. One, a bit of an opportunist signing because it was available for 25 million. Let's have it right. 25 million in today's game is basically like, 250k way back then. Do you know what I'm saying? So to them, it looked like a bit of a bargain basement buy. And then, I think one of the goalkeeping coaches that we have, that we took from Brighton that came over with Graham Potter, is firmly standing behind him. See, the goalkeeping coach or one of the recruitment guys is firmly standing behind him and saying, trust the process. He will become a world-class keeper. Yes, people, I have seen such quotes about Robert Sanchez. Me personally, I do not trust it. If there's one position on the pitch that you should never, ever compromise is the goalkeeper. That position, if the best is available, you go and get the best. Chelsea have done themselves a disservice by allowing this man to be a number 1 goalkeeper when there are other goalkeepers out there. Now, this is the thing. Some people will say, oh, look, the price tag of some of the goalkeepers that you want are a little bit expensive. It's exactly like I said. You do not compromise. If they want 80 million for Maignan, you pay 80 million for Maignan. If they want 60 million, 70 million for Alisson, you pay 60, 70 million for Alisson, and you deal with the problems afterwards. That is a non-negotiable position. This guy, for me, I don't think he's ready for the highest level. And we've seen players that have stepped up, have done pretty well in the Premier League and other teams. Do you know what I mean? So teams that are not really challenging for European positions, that are challenging for major honours or have the ambition to be challenging for such honours. It's a different kettle of fish when you step into Chelsea. And I think some of the mistakes that Robert Sanchez has made throughout his, short Chelsea career so far, I believe has come down to pressure and him not being able to handle it as well. Because some of these saves are just basic saves that he should be making. For example, the second goal that went in against Arsenal, he got his hand to that near post. If you get your hand to that, you've got to save that. At the top level, that is not acceptable. So obviously that's one example of quite a few that I've seen. And the fact that it's quite alarming to me that, at Brighton, he was dropped down the pecking order to third, not second, but third choice goalkeeper. And now he stepped into Chelsea and is now number 1. You asked about Ramsdale. Aaron Ramsdale, let's have an honest conversation here. When we look at the goalkeepers that we've got at Chelsea and we look at Aaron Ramsdale, is he an upgrade to what we've got? I hate to say it, but yes, he is. But is he the goalkeeper that I want in between the sticks at Chelsea Football Club? No, he is not. Why? Because I can name several goalkeepers that are better than this guy. And when we're talking about Chelsea Football Club, okay? Although we haven't really been acting like this since the Bowleys have come in, we want to get the best of the best. And I still maintain to this day, when it comes to the goalkeeper, forget about this age structure thing. Forget about trying to penny pinch on the wages. This is one of the most important positions in football. I've already said this. And on top of that, a solid goalkeeper makes your defense better. Because if you've got a solid goalkeeper behind you and you've got the trust and you've got the assurance of Mr. Golden Gloves over here, you've also got assurance in your defense. Your defense is looking at the situation, well, I've got this back four, we're all together in this back four. We're pretty solid. Defense is one of our stronger positions and we've got our goalkeeper behind us. When you don't trust your goalkeeper and you've got that in the back of your mind as a defender, it's extra pressure on you. Do you know what I mean? And the reason why I mention that is because these players that we have are young. They don't need that extra pressure. Thiago Silva knows what to do if he's got a dodgy goalkeeper behind him. So for him, it's a situation where it's like, okay, cool. We just got to make sure that these guys do not break the lines under any circumstances. Young players don't know necessarily. They understand that's the principle, but they mentally, they're not ready to handle it. Cases in point, Disasi's just come into the Premier League. Colwill is coming into Chelsea first season. And so on and so forth. So I just don't think it's a healthy recipe right now to have this man as a goalkeeper. No, neither of them. We need somebody with that leadership and assurance. And for me, you've got to be looking at the likes of Maignan and those kind of goalkeepers there, 100%.
It's a tricky one because I agree with you 100%. I think, Sanchez coming in hasn't improved the squad. I said at the start of this season, this is a season for us. We haven't got excuses. We haven't got any excuses. We've got one game a week, albeit with the Carabao Cup and the FA Cup, but we've got one game a week. So you can't, and this is where you hit the nail on the head, you can't sacrifice your goalkeeper for an outfield player. You can't go and buy the cheap goalkeeper because it's available. You think back to the goalkeeper, the last goalkeeper you would honestly, hand on heart say that you trusted in between the sticks. You're probably going to go back to Kepa, to Czech, not even Kepa, sorry. No, I said Kepa because he's the worst goalkeeper out of all three of them. But Czech would probably be the last goalkeeper, solid goalkeeper that we had at the club.
Yeah,
100%. All honesty. Caballero, no. Kepa, no. Mendy, no. We haven't had a goalkeeper. I think for me personally, I'm very nervous to see Sanchez in goal because we got to see that against Arsenal. Playing out from the back is basic stuff. In the modern day of the game, now in today's football, you have to be able to play out from the back. At a top club like Chelsea, your centre-backs need to be able to play out from the back. Your goalkeeper needs to be able to distribute the ball correctly. And understand as well, there's times when you can't play out from the back or you don't play out from the back, or if your defenders are being pressured, which on Saturday, that was the case. You saw the first goal. Declan Rice should have never had a chance to score from that position of the pitch.
Exactly.
And you can say that, I can't remember who played the ball out to, but you could say maybe the defender's got to do better in that situation, but don't play, he's under pressure. Why are you giving him the ball under pressure? The second goal, I agree with you when you said about, these young defenders are coming into a new league. You can probably say that Malagusto was the wrong side of Odegaard for the second goal, because I think he was, he should be right side of his defender. He should be reading the game a bit better. But even so, expect as a goalkeeper, your defender is going to make a mistake. I always say this exactly. As a defender, I played defense. I always used to think, if I make a mistake, I know my goalkeeper's going to cover me. Yeah. Because the goalkeepers is the last bit of the ball going into the back of the net. The defender messes up, you got to think that the goalkeeper's going to clean up your mess for you. If you can't do that, you shouldn't be in goal, in my opinion.
Yeah, exactly.
We're stuck because Petrovic hasn't really had an opportunity. Kepa looks like he's going to be staying at Real Madrid by what I'm hearing, in terms of they want to buy him. Maybe that's because Courtois' injury is going to take a bit longer to recover for the next season as well. Who realistically when do we go in for this goalkeeper? Because we could wait till the summer. Is that too late? Do we need to strike while the iron's hot and try and get a goalkeeper in January? One of the most difficult areas of the pitch to try and, eradicate the issues in the January window. No one wants to sell their goalkeeper in the winter window. So
no.
Do we go in and try and change that in January? Do we wait till the summer? Can we afford to do that?
Well, this is the problem that we found ourselves. This just goes back to what you said. Who wants to sell their top asset goalkeeper in January? Especially if with the type of goalkeepers we should be looking at, these guys are playing Champions League football. So what incentive do we have to even bring them to the club without the Champions League football? So we've shot ourselves in the foot initially here. Do you know what I mean? The only way that we're going to do this, right, is if we just hope they become a mercenary and just accept whatever we throw at them. Do you know what I mean? If we just pay over the odds. But most goalkeepers in this day and age will say, do you know what? I'm interested, but I'd rather wait till the summer. Do you know what I mean? So this is how I see it. I can certainly see Magnan saying that. Diogo Costa for me is a goalkeeper that I like. I will say that, he has had some moments of inconsistency, but remember, he is only 23 as well. Goalkeeper is a very mature position. Like, you get into your best when you touch your 30s and all that kind of stuff. So, but from what I've seen of him, I definitely think he's good enough. But are Porto going to want to sell while he's in the Champions League and, while they're fighting for the title? Absolutely not. They're not going to want to do that now. So we're now in a situation where we're either going to panic buy a goalkeeper or we're going to have to sit and trust what we have. But if I'm honest, it puts us fans in a bit of a situation where it's catch-22 because we don't want to compromise that goalkeeper position, which means all roads are pointing to you got to be patient and wait till the summer. But it's what can happen between now and the summer is what we're concerned about. So it's the question. It goes round in circles. Do we pull the trigger or do we not pull the trigger? But then it's also relative to how badly our goalkeeper's performing. And now our goalkeeper, he's not doing so good. He's really not. And the thing is like people will say, oh, you're harsh on the goalkeeper, whatever. I never trusted him in the first place. I know you didn't trust him that much in the first place. So the proof is, so it's up to him to prove to me that he is trustworthy because he hasn't shown me that previously before. But honestly, it's a good question, TDOT. And I just think we've caught ourselves in between a rock and a hard place, bruv. Do you know what I mean? So we're just going to have to... Personally, I don't want to panic by that position. I really don't. Because if we get it right, if we get it right, your goalkeeper's going to stay there for the next 10 years or so. Yep. Do you know what I mean? So we can't panic by this at all.
I've got a question. Now, obviously, there's a particular Manchester United goalkeeper or ex-Manchester United goalkeeper that is sitting around sunny Spain and rainy Manchester at the moment. David De Gea is a free agent. Now, is there an opportunity for us to sign him on a very short-term contract for 6 months?
That's a very good question. Because if you had told me this in summer, I would have said absolutely not. But now, when you contextualize things and you look at David De Gea in relativity to Sanchez, it's night and day.
I mean, I would take him.
David De Gea is the better goalkeeper.
I'll take him.
Do you know what I mean? And then when you look again, look back at that Arsenal game, that second goal. Let's have an honest conversation with ourselves. Is David De Gea saving that? 100%.
Do you know what though? You say that, but he gets beaten at his near post a lot. He does. It's probably not a good example. Do you know what I'm saying?
No, fair enough. He does get beat at his near post. All right. My question is this.
He wouldn't have got to that stage. Yeah.
No, my question should have been this. Is he a more trustworthy shot stopper than Robert Sanchez?
100%.
1,000%. I don't really necessarily... at this point, right, and I know it is, I'm not going to negate the fact playing out from the back is very important. But I have to look at it relatively. I'm willing to sacrifice a bit of that to have assurances that my goalkeeper can stop shots. And then we've seen David De Gea, his shot stopping is insane. We've seen him make some exceptional saves time and time again. How many times has he been Manchester United's player of the season?
It's true.
You know what I mean? So in terms of like, if we're talking between now and the summer, 100% I'm for it. Because even if he doesn't play on a consistent basis, Robert Sanchez is looking at that bench thinking, I don't perform here. I've got Manchester United's 2 or 3 time player of the season waiting at the bench for his opportunity. So I better get it right. Because he's looking at Petrovic. This is a similar situation we had with Kepa, T-Dot. Kepa's looking on the bench and he's thinking, this man ain't going to replace me. I can make a mistake this week and I'm still playing next week.
That's
we
the
now
problem we
found
got now.
ourselves in this situation. Yeah, no, we can't have that. We need to learn from these mistakes. So I would, honestly, I definitely would.
It's just whether De Gea would take that opportunity for 6 months, or does he want a long term? There's obviously talk of him going back to United now in a short term capacity because Onana might be going to the AFCON. But I would take him. I'll be honest. I'll take him as a short stopgap, and then we can address it in the summer. Or if he's playing as well as he should, why not keep him as an option? Do you know what I mean? Keep De Gea as an option, as a number 2, if he's willing to do that. At that point, I would say he would be in his career. He's done enough for United to warrant not being first choice. So, yeah. I don't know. But I want to speak about, obviously, Arsenal game. We didn't start with a natural number 9 striker. Nicholas Jackson was on the bench against Arsenal. I know, I'm bringing him up because I know he's going to get your back up a little bit. I know this. But at the same time as well, I think it was the right call from Pochettino not to play him against Arsenal. It worked out because I think Mudryk came off at the 66, 67 minute against Arsenal. And when we brought on Nicholas Jackson, that was the first sub. That was the wrong sub, the first one. But he completely changed the game when he came on for the wrong reasons. Now, Broja, we can't assess him this season, I don't think. I think it's going to take a while for him to hit the potential. We still talk about potential Broja. We don't actually know if he's the guy.
Yeah, it's a fact.
We don't know. We don't know about Jackson either, and we spoke about it on your channel with Eunice. But Victor Osimhen, talk to me, because there's a lot of talk about him saying he doesn't want to go to Saudi. He wants to go to the MLS, which I find a bit strange myself personally. But surely we have to go all out, especially with what's happened at Napoli as well. You think of it the last couple of weeks, the madness he's been under and been his teammates and everyone else and the fans, whatever, the club as well, the TikTok and all that madness. Surely we have to go all out for him. He has to be the guy we go for in the winter window.
Well, okay, so this is what I know about the Osimhen situation, and you're very lucky because I haven't even mentioned this on my channel. I'm doing
exclusives.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So the situation with Osimhen is I know very much under very good authority that Osimhen is the prime target. Now, to people that are thinking, who is this guy and what authority is this guy speaking from? Okay, I've just got to go by a track record, right? I mentioned about Declan Rice almost a year before the transfer was going to happen to Arsenal, that he was not going to come to Chelsea and Arsenal was his choice. The Enzo Fernandez situation, I mentioned this early and I knew this was going to happen. Romeo Lavia and Caicedo, TDOT, you already know. Yeah, I've done the whole hashtag thing in the group chat. Yeah, and it ended up happening. But do you know what I mean? I know some people basically. So with Osimhen, we're very, very much interested. In terms of Osimhen's interest with Chelsea Football Club, he is very much interested. Now, we've seen players that have been fans of clubs and go to other places before. Case in point, Chouameni, massive Chelsea fan, and his dad ended up at Real Madrid. With this situation with Victor Osimhen, I know very much that he is interested to play for Chelsea. Now, the thing is what Osimhen and his team want to see is the ambition going forward, because they're very much aware that there's a possibility Chelsea will not be playing Champions League football next season, but that doesn't matter to them too much because their client and Osimhen himself is only 24 years old. So he's definitely got time in his career. And when you look at Chelsea Football Club, this is what people don't realise. Although we haven't been in Europe, last year, this season we're not going to be in Europe and possibly next season. But agents and players like to look at a rounded sample size. So basically what I'm saying is this. Over the past 10 years, how many times have has this team been in the Champions League? With Chelsea, you can't argue with the numbers. We've been very consistent in there. So they have a belief that we're going to get back into the Champions League. Second of all, what they also do is that they share their transfer targets with those players. And from what I've been told, Osimhen's agent and himself do feel that Chelsea will be ambitious enough for him to join that club. The only thing is, right, where nobody can be certain is the owner of Napoli. This guy, De Laurentiis, is a notorious difficult man to work with. He's got so much ego that I'm pretty sure that he would let 120 million euro player leave on a free as long as it's by his terms. He will die on his hill. So it's up to Chelsea how they deal with De Laurentiis, because remember, De Laurentiis wasn't happy about Koulibaly leaving Napoli the way he did and going to Chelsea. That left a bit of a sour taste in his mouth. Although he only had a year left in his contract, he didn't leave on the terms that De Laurentiis wanted him to leave. I think what we might see is we're going to make an offer this January with the aim of the player joining in the summer. And that would be to appease De Laurentiis, to make him feel like he's won. Because sometimes you have to do this. And this is not just in football. This is also in business as well. Sometimes when you need something and you're dealing with a very difficult negotiator, the key thing is not always money. It's just make them feel like they've won. Swallow your pride. Let him feel like he's won. Now, what is this ambition that Guni is talking of that Osimhen and the agent are happy with? This is a player that I've mentioned very early and I was laughed at by many people in my fan base and other fan bases on the socials. And that player is Jamal Musiala.
Yeah, you've been saying it for a while.
And what are we seeing in the reports now? He's not looking to sign a contract at Bayern Munich.
Yeah, but that's because Tuchel's there as well.
Right. This is an uncomfortable conversation, TDOT.
Yeah, it's true.
I'm telling you, this is the thing, TDOT. You see, when you call things early, especially when you say something about the golden goose, you risk a lot of scrutiny, bro. And towards the end of Thomas Tuchel's tenureship, remember what I was telling you, bro?
No, you did. Yeah, I'll be honest, you did.
Yeah, I was saying, look, it doesn't make me feel good to say this about Thomas Tuchel, but the way this guy's running the club respectfully after he got his divorce, he became a bit of a tyrant. He was doing things towards players, right, that was unacceptable. His conduct as well, his professionalism, he did things, if he had done them in a normal workplace, he would have got sacked and even worse things would have followed up. Obviously, I'm not going to go into too much detail about what I know, but it was untenable for him to stay at the club. And I also said this, when this guy goes to Bayern Munich, I'll be very surprised if he lasts more than one season.
It's not looking good. It's not looking good for him.
The proof is in the pudding. Kimmich is unhappy, bro. Yeah, Joseph Kimmich is unhappy. And Musiala's not signing a new contract. This is where they're at now. So, listen, with Musiala, the situation is, Chelsea are very much interested. Manchester City are interested as well. Also, Real Madrid. Liverpool are interested, but they ain't got a leg in this race. They just haven't. Yes, they may finish in the European spots, but what I do understand is that Real Madrid and Manchester City and Chelsea are the options that this guy is looking at. In terms of Manchester City, it remains to be seen whether they're willing to match what we want to pay for Musiala. In the case of Real Madrid, it doesn't. I think they are the biggest threat in this thing here. They are the biggest threat in this. Of course. Yeah. The only saving grace that we have is that they've just signed Jude Bellingham, and the way he's performing, he's been absolutely amazing. So that might deter them from joining that Jamal Musiala race, which would essentially leave it between us, Manchester City, and obviously Liverpool as well. They do have interest. But if it's out of the three...
Gotta fancy our chances, man.
I do, because this is the thing. Not to say that, we're in a better position than Manchester City to sign the player. I just know that our hierarchy are hell-bent on bringing this boy back to Chelsea. And you see, right, one thing we can say about Todd Boehly is when this guy wants something over the line, he will throw the kitchen sink at it to get it over the line. And that's what he's going to do. Yep, that's what he's going to do. So striker-wise, I think we're going to be good. Ivan Toney, to those that want Ivan Toney, once again, I've been saying this for quite some time now, he's going to Arsenal. Forget about the Chelsea links, people. We're going to disappoint ourselves. He is going to Arsenal. Arteta has already sold that project to him. He's very interested in going to Arsenal. It's a very simple move that can be made. Both clubs are in London, similar to Chelsea anyway, but, Ivan Toney, 28 years old, he's looking at it as like, I'm coming towards the tail end of my career here. I want to start winning trophies. I'm looking at Arsenal now. They're pushing for the Premier League. They're in the Champions League. I'm looking at Chelsea. Although these men are not mugs, but they are going through a development phase right now that might take a couple seasons before they're competing at all fronts. and I'm going to be post 30 when that team gels. So from that perspective, it's understandable why he's going to go to Arsenal.
Yeah, I agree. Do you know what? I mean, I've been, you know me already. I've been a big believer in Ivan Toney, and I still am. But I do see the logistics of him going to Arsenal, because if he wants that instant success, which obviously Arsenal's project is a lot further down the line than Chelsea's.
Yes.
That's clear to see. You can see that they're 2-3 years ahead of us. If we're being honest, they're better than us in terms of the project. So it makes sense for him to go there. My thing with Toney is that he's proven that he can score goals.
Yes.
Now, whether he can do that when he comes back from a ban, a 6-month ban, that's a different conversation. But he knows how to put the ball in the back of the net. I'm not saying Osimhen can't do that, because he can. Again, phenomenal. But I just think you've got someone who's played in the league, understands just how the league works a bit more, then that would sway me towards Toney.
Toney doesn't rely on service as much as Osimhen does. He's able to make a lot of opportunities himself on his own. We see how Ivan Toney, he's an amazing profile to have in the Premier League. Let's be honest. The man runs the channels properly. Do you know what I mean? Like an old school striker. The guy's a bully like an old school striker. The guy's got a dead eye for goal. He can score. Do you know what I mean? He's just an absolute nonsense to play with. I mean, it's nonsense. Nuisance. Sorry, absolute nuisance to be playing against. So he's the right. I agree with you, bro. I agree. I hear you.
But we have to see. I mean, look. I mean, if he goes to Arsenal, it's not the end of the world. I mean, he's, like you said, in a couple of years, we'd be looking at replacing him anyway. If you think of it like that, you know what I mean? So we'll have to see how that pans out. But I want to talk about as well, there's a lot of talk around us occupying some more space around Stamford Bridge, in terms of the rebuild of Stamford Bridge, which is potentially meant to be happening. If I'm going to be honest myself, I don't see it happening. I don't see it happening for a couple of years anyway. But there's still a lot of talk about Stamford Bridge being redeveloped, and there's options around moving to Earls Court, which is a whole different, completely location, or expanding on Stamford Bridge. But if I've read correctly, I think that will only increase the capacity by about 10 or 11,000, which for me personally doesn't really make sense to do that. It just, if you're going to rebuild, do the whole rebuild somewhere else. But my question that I want to ask is around, obviously there's a lot of options around, do we play at Wembley in terms of the rebuild happening? Where do we go? Is it Wembley? Do we use Twickenham? Do we use Fulham, Craven Cottage, which then would obviously reduce down the capacity of Chelsea fans going to the games? But do you think it's something that we really need to be concentrating on at the moment, whilst we've just spoken about two key areas of the team that we need to fulfill in terms of a goalkeeper and a striker, and trying to just get the club back to where it needs to be first before we start thinking about redevelopment of Stamford Bridge?
I'd agree with that, but I do know that there are separate budgets for these things. So a transfer budget wouldn't really affect a redevelopment plan, or vice versa. But what I'll say is that this is a plan that's a long time coming. Even under Roman Abramovich, we were trying to get this done, but they weren't able to get the planning permission for whatever reason to do it at that time. And Roman actually inserted in the clause that you must redevelop Stamford Bridge and expand the stadium, or whatever it may be. Sharing with Craven Cottage would be absolutely ridiculous for me, because the match day revenue is going to take a massive hit. Massive hit. So I don't think that's going to be very smart to do. And on top of that, what do you want to share with Fulham anyway? You know what I mean?
To be fair, they've got a new stand. They have got that new stand there now, but I do get your point. I do get your point.
For me, it would have to be Wembley. It would have to be Wembley. It makes the most sense. We're not sharing the pitch with anybody. The capacity at Wembley, you already know, it's a huge capacity as well. So we're not hurting our pockets in terms of, match day revenue. We can actually fit our fans in that stadium. But yeah, this redevelopment of Stamford Bridge. Now, what I can see happening is, I don't think we're going to move location, because the CPO are not going to have it. The Chelsea pitch owners, they are not going to have it, and they have the say. Do you know what I mean? If they say no, that's the end of it. It's not going to happen. But to only expand it by 10,000, 11,000...
It don't make any sense to me.
It doesn't make no sense to me, because the capacity is what, like 48,000 right now? I'm just going off the top of my head.
Yeah, I think it's just under.
42,000, something like that. Let's just say around the 40,000, 45,000 mark, something like that. If we are the biggest club in London, right, which I truly believe that we are.
We are.
Listen,
There's no debate about it.
Premier League titles and all that, but they've
No.
got no European
There's no
trophies.
debate, man. There's no
They got
debate.
no
When you got to
Champions
win the
League.
Champions League to be the best in London. Sorry.
Exactly. How are we going to have a stadium that doesn't have a capacity bigger than Tottenham and bigger than Arsenal?
But this is why I think the relocation, I know this won't happen because, like you said, CPO won't have this, but this is why I think we need to go and rebuild the whole thing, because there's not enough space around Stamford Bridge to redevelop the whole stadium. You can't.
No, I agree.
I think you'd have to knock down the hotels that are adjacent to the stadium to then build something. And even then, you're only talking about a 10,000 increase in seats. So you talk about 55,000, I think, once the redevelopment's done. It's still not enough. Like that, to me, you may as well just rebuild the whole thing, knock down the whole stadium then, and knock down the space that's been acquired, knock down the hotel, and try and increase it to maybe 60,000, maybe 65, even touch maybe 70 if you can at a push. Then I understand. And it's got to look like state of the art. I want it to look like a Tottenham. I'm jealous of Tottenham Stadium, I'll be honest. Their stadium looks amazing.
Yeah, it does. They've done a good job. They've done a good job.
I want it to look like that. I don't want it to look like we've just added a few seats. I want it to look. If you're going to do it properly. But
exactly.
I agree with you. I think Wembley would be the choice. I think Fulham would be a no for me. I mean, obviously Brentford's only down the road. I can't remember that as well. Brentford's not too far. That's still only down the road, really. But I think it's one of those things for me that it's not priority. I know there's separate budgets and everything and that, but it's not a priority for me. I'll be honest. I think, let's just, I know there's a whole team of people that are just employed to look at expanding the stadium. I'm not stupid, but to me, it shouldn't even be the front of the Chelsea news right now.
I don't disagree, bruv. I think it's a case of too much too soon as well, man, because, we've already suffered with the whole shake-up off the pitch in terms of, all the staff being gutted out and this, that and the other. Now we're throwing in the mix, building a new stadium and all this kind of stuff. I think it's too much too soon. And really and truly, we do need to focus on getting better on the pitch. We definitely do. Because, look, we can do all of that. We can build our stadium to 70,000 capacity or whatever. I'm just throwing numbers out here. But if we're getting consistent 12th place finishes, 10th place finishes, you're not
filling the stadium.
What's going to end up happening is you're going to do the opposite, and it's going to be protests. So just get it right on the pitch first.
That's what I'm saying. I agree with that. That's my position I'm coming from, because I think you've seen it with other clubs at the moment. I seen Wayne Rooney getting booed off at Birmingham City the other day. Like that, fans don't want to see seats; they want to see results. In my opinion,
exactly.
So get the results first, and then we'll talk about the stadium. But let's move on, because we haven't got much time left, and I know you gotta go soon. But we've got a massive fixture congestion list coming up. First up again, Saturday, 12:30, I think, is Brentford. Massive game. Yeah. Big game for us, really. Now, I want to talk about your lineup, your preview lineup, what you would go with your predicted lineup, and understand whether you would play Nicholas Jackson, who I already know the answer to this, but just for the listeners. but who would you go with from front to back in terms of your 11? And then what are you expecting from Pochettino, from the team, that might be a replica of how we started the game against Arsenal?
From front to back, I'm going with Mudryk, Cole Palmer, and Raheem Sterling. And the reason I'm going for that is because we saw Cole Palmer do the false nine role a bit against Arsenal. I thought he was fantastic. I thought in that one performance, he's done better than the entire time Kai Havertz tried that false nine position.
Oh yeah, 100.
Why is that? This guy, I'm sorry, but for £40 million, Manchester City have been absolutely robbed. This guy, in terms of chance creation, just in terms of all-round ball IQ, is just on another level. Okay. And you can see how more so Raheem Sterling so far, but Mudryk is starting to get involved in the action now as well. You can see how these guys are starting to benefit from it as well. So that would be my front three. My midfield, I don't think I'd change it, if I'm honest with you. Caicedo and Enzo definitely as the pivot. Conor Gallagher in this role that he's been given. I didn't even know what to call it anymore, because it doesn't look like a traditional 10. It just looks like I'm going to get killed for saying this. It just looks like Kante just running around in an advanced position and just winning the ball all the time. Do you know what I mean? At times, but listen, that's not knocking Conor Gallagher. He has been actually doing a decent job, and considering our injury issues as well, that's who we do have to play. Do you know what I mean? So I'm going with that midfield three. The back line.
Tricky, because obviously Reece James is now available.
Yeah, I don't know his level of fitness right now. And although Malo Gusto did switch off for that last goal, that was his best performance in a Chelsea shirt for me. And I do very much believe in meritocracy and that you should be you should be rewarded for your form. So I would actually start Malo Gusto again. To many, that would be controversial, but to me, I just think it's the fair thing to do because he had a blinder. Considering who he played against, Martinelli and Saka, they were shut up for most of the game.
It's true.
I mean? So my fullbacks are not going to change. Similar with Cucurella. He stepped up. He presented the aggression that I wanted to see from him in terms of his defensive aspect of things. And he basically pocketed Saka. Some will say, well, Saka got the assist. But this is the thing, is that these numbers don't tell the full story. Before that, he was in Cucurella's back pocket. And honest Arsenal fans will tell you that. My centre-back pairing for this game, again, I don't think it changes. Because, no, actually it does.
You're taking Silva out now. I know you're going to take Thiago Silva out.
No. I'm not taking him out. I'm not going to take him out. I'm going to keep him in, actually, because I thought he done pretty well against Arsenal. And based on what I said about meritocracy, I think he should stay.
Yep.
It's the other one. Levi Colwill, for me, in the Arsenal game, he showed his age and lack of experience. And dare I say, a bit of lack of composure. How many times did he slice the ball in clearances and things like that? We could have been punished several times for the lack of composure from him. I'm going to bring in a guy that I'll admit I never had the most faith in him when we signed him, but I can't really say he's put a foot in wrong since he's come in. And that is Disasi. I'd actually start him because I don't think he's done terribly. Has he lit up the world? No, he hasn't. But has he been reliable?
Yep.
I believe so. So I think he starts. Now, this is where the real question comes into it, is the goalkeeper position. Do I trust Sanchez to play this game? Or do I go with a goalkeeper that I know absolutely nothing about, and I'm not going to sit here and lie to you and pretend that I've watched him play 100 games or even 5 games? Unfortunately, because I don't know what to expect from, I forget his name, Petrovic or something like that. Petrovic, that's the one. I'm going to have to go with Sanchez. But I would like to see Petrovic in the cup games, perhaps against, if we're drawn against.
We got Blackburn on Wednesday. We got Blackburn on Wednesday.
Exactly. Perfect opportunity right there to show us. So for this one, I'm definitely saying Sanchez, but I don't say it with much confidence.
With your chest. You can't say it with your chest.
I can't because I just have to say that because he's the only element that I know, and he actually does have some Premier League experience. So that's who it's going to have to be.
I can't even argue with that. I really can't. I think I've just been reading there that Reece James is definitely on the bench for Brentford. He's not fully fit, so that eliminates who's playing at right back. It's going to be Malo Gusto, which I am not against. I think even against Arsenal, like you said, he had a really good performance and he hasn't put a foot wrong for me. Apart from the red card that possibly wasn't even a red card. Apart from that, he hasn't really put a foot wrong. Since he started his time at Chelsea. Do you know what? I would keep Conor Gallagher in there. I think he's improved over the summer. I still don't think he's the answer. I really don't. And I think when Lavia is fit, because you was in we had a kind of conversation, I think offline, or maybe I put a tweet, I can't remember, but there was a lot of people saying that Enzo Fernandez isn't that Enzo Fernandez that we thought he was going to be. There's a massive reason for that. He's playing for me personally, he's playing in a double pivot. I think personally Enzo Fernandez should be playing the role that Conor Gallagher's currently playing. I think that's Enzo. Okay. For me, Enzo Fernandez should be doing that job. But that's that's my opinion. I think it would be Lavia, Caicedo for me in that midfield. If we had that option, we don't. But if it was, I would have them there. I would have Enzo further up the field. I think it's more. It'll be more effective going forward for me personally. And I think this is where this conversation that took place on I think it's on Twitter Spaces this week was around: is he doing the job that we need him to do for 100 million? Possibly not, because obviously at the moment he's playing in a role that's probably less suited, in my opinion. But that's just me.
And this is what I say about, because I know exactly which space you're talking about. I was actually listening. These guys never apply context to anything. They don't. They just say things like, "Look at Jude Bellingham at Real Madrid. Look at this guy at
but look where he's playing."
But look, exactly. They don't contextualize the fact that these players are walking into a completely stable team, right? That are either challenging for things or have won things and have been doing it for years. Do you know what I mean? So this is what I'm saying. They completely lack context. So I don't really listen to a lot of these. I take these opinions seriously. But in terms of Enzo Fernandez, I do believe, I personally would still keep him in the central midfield. I believe that his skills are very much of a playmaker. And he can contribute in terms of, defensive work as well. I've seen it done. I prefer him in the center of the pitch. Now, what I would do is when Lavia comes back, I would still have Caicedo and Enzo in that pivot, but I would sit Lavia in behind them.
Makes sense as well. It's an option.
Yeah, because now Enzo does have the option to advance forward and occupy that number 10 position, and Lavia can step up and form that pivot again. And then when he comes back down into that midfield, Lavia can go into his natural position. Do you know what I mean? Because a lot of people forget as well that one of Lavia's strengths is actually creation from the deep position.
True. It's true.
You know what I mean? That's what I'm saying. So we can make it work, but then again, it's opinions. I don't necessarily think you're wrong either, because I can see a lot of Enzo's strengths in occupying that position as well, a bit further forward. It's just obviously the players in front of him have let him down and have not taken the opportunities that he's presented for them. I hear you, bro. I hear that.
Before we wrap up, then we've got to do our usual. We usually do our score predictions. So, as the guest, I'm going to let you go first. I'm going to let you go first in terms of the score result for tomorrow.
Are we at the G-Tech or are we at Stamford Bridge?
We're away, I think, tomorrow. Oh no, we're home. Sorry, we're home. We're at the Bridge. Think, honestly, doesn't really make a difference. Does it really make a difference right now where we play?
Yeah, to be honest with you, I don't really think it does. I don't. You know what, TDOT? I feel strangely confident. I feel oddly confident, bro. Because I'm gonna go with. I'm even gonna say 3-1 Chelsea. I feel like we're actually going to have an emphatic victory against these guys. Honestly, I do.
Okay.
I mean, after that performance against Arsenal, yes, I know we bottled it last minute. I know we did. But those boys are going to come away thinking, listen, the past 18 months has been a whole bottle job anyway. You know what I mean? So to go toe-to-toe with with title contenders and dominate them in how we did, we've definitely turned a bit of a corner. We've definitely improved. So I think with context, they're still going to be taking out and riding on a little bit on that high going into this Brentford game. And I think we're going to get the result. I really do.
I'm going to go 2-1 Chelsea. I think it'll be a difficult game for us. I think Brentford are a team. I like Thomas Frank as a manager. I think he sets his team up very well. And they've got some really good players in that team. And Boomer, Wisa, going forward, I think are good for them. And I think defensively, we got exposed a lot in that second half against Arsenal. And my worry with Pochettino is he's going to tinker with this squad slightly on Saturday. He's going to. I wouldn't be surprised to see Jackson come back in. I don't want to see this, but I think he'll bring Jackson back into the fold. I really do. I think he'll feel like we need goals. And if we see this Jackson playing in this role that clearly, you said it early on in the season, that doesn't really necessarily suit him. He's more of a winger. He needs to play on the out, on the flanks of the pitch. Then we could be in serious trouble, because I think it will then limit our creation of goals, our opportunities when we get taken away. So I think we should start with the lineup, the exact lineup, bar the swap of Colwell and Tasasi. I would swap that. Yeah. But we should start with the same lineup, because that was when we was most effective for 70 minutes of a game. Do you know what I mean? So, me personally, 2-1. I think we'll dominate the game if we start with the right lineup. And the key thing, I say this every single week, substitutions are so key.
That's
The timing of the substitutions is just as important as the player coming on and the player leaving the pitch. You have to know to, and remember, Lampard was doing this, Potter was doing it. Both of these guys were doing it where they would wait till we go a goal down and then change the game. No, let's get our 2 goals or 3 goals and then let's make those changes defensively. That will still help us, but offensively, we're still okay to go forward as well. Surely that's bread and butter for a manager, but
no, facts. And yeah, what I'll say is again, like I have to echo basically what you said in terms of the substitutions, because I do feel that, you know, we didn't talk enough about Pochettino's decisions in terms of substitutions for the Arsenal game, because I do feel like he played into Arteta's hands by doing that. This manager's got to learn how to hold composure, and sometimes he's got to understand, do not fix what's not broken. Sometimes it's as simple as that. And what he fixed against Arsenal wasn't broken. So he's really got to hold that composure and know when to make the correct subs. Once he does that, which I believe he will, because a lot of substitutions also comes down to, you know, your trust of a player, whether they can see things through. Because remember, these are young players as well. And closing out games is something that also comes with experience too. So maybe that was in the back of his mind. But Poch, please, you got to make the right decisions and just don't bottle it. Just don't bottle it, man. Because we shouldn't be where we are on the table. We shouldn't be where we are on the table. And now we're at a situation where we've got these difficult fixtures coming up, and these points are now becoming more important than ever. So, yeah, man, that's what I say about the situation.
Critical period in our season. Poch has to get it right. You're going for 3-1. I'm going for 2-1. I know everyone knows your channel already, but where can the people, the Chelsea fans, where can they find, not even just Chelsea fans, because your channel's not just predominantly Chelsea, but where can the football fans find you?
Man Knows Football. Now, people have been pretty sick over the past week, which is why you haven't even seen a post-match after the Arsenal game. So, and I'm just getting my voice back. But I should be active this evening. I'll be doing a preview for the game, obviously. I've got Roma. Roma's joining me on Sunday as well. TDOT, you're more than welcome to join that. And I should have Darko, and I've asked Mr. Fraser Fletcher as well, who's been absolutely smashing it with the transfer news, if he's available next week. But either way, sign up to subscribe to Man Knows Football. You'll find me there on the socials as well. Big up yourselves to those that are watching, and even more important than that, make sure you subscribe to my guy TDOT, man.
Yeah, love for that, man.
Show some support for the channel.
Love for that, man, and appreciate you coming on as always. Don't forget, make sure you, as Guni just said, subscribe to the channel. Make sure you hit the Linktree link in the description. Takes you to all our social accounts, our previous episodes of the podcast as well. And everyone who entered the competition, if you've won, then congratulations. And if you haven't received your prizes, they should be on the way to you very soon. But yeah, until next time, episode 103. Thank you very much for listening. We'll be back next week.
Southgate.